Starkiller has done so many insane feats and he's well known for them. One of the greatest feats is certainly this one here, pulling a whole friggin' Star Destroyer down from the atmosphere. But how did he get here? Well, Starkiller was first introduced in the Force Unleashed games as Darth Vader's apprentice. He was trained in secret, and the young boy was molded into the perfect Sith assassin. From a young age, he had to train in various dark side Force techniques, all while being tortured or left to starve by his master. His great potential in the Force and Vader's training allowed him to quickly develop his skills in the Force, and from that, one of the greatest beings in the galaxy was formed. One that should rival the Emperor himself in raw strength in the Force. Through various missions he was sent on as an assassin, Starkiller kept growing in strength, defeating powerful foes like Shaak Ti and other Jedi survivors. However, during these missions he started to rediscover his Jedi heritage, and his original name being Galen Marek. From Shaak Ti, he also started to gain a better understanding of the light side of the Force, and slowly started embracing certain aspects of it. Through that, his understanding and strength in the Force became even stronger. On a mission on Raxus Prime, he wanted to destroy the Star Destroyer shipyard alongside his rebel allies. But when setting off an explosion, one Star Destroyer in orbit started to plummet down towards the surface right at him. Having no time to flee, he was forced to use the Force to try and control its fall. Starkiller had never done something so crazy before. Pulling apart Imperial walkers using the Force was already challenging enough, but controlling a ship of this enormous size and weight was an entirely different challenge. Despite all his feats, he initially considered it impossible. However, he was reminded of the fact that size and mass were nothing compared to the Force. The same saying that Yoda gave to Luke, "Don't judge the size." To that end, he attempted to do the impossible, focusing his entire strength on the falling ship. As he pulled the Star Destroyer down, he was initially overwhelmed by the scale of the task. He tried to draw power from his identity as Galen Marek, but that proved to be futile. Then, slowly becoming desperate, he allowed Juno Eclipse to surround his thoughts, his female companion who had accompanied him on so many of his missions. Starkiller drew strength from the image of her. With that, he managed to guide the falling Star Destroyer into the surface in front of him. He had done it. The impossible task. Catching a Star Destroyer and guiding it down with the Force. It was probably the most incredible feat we've ever witnessed in Star Wars. As it crashed, a bunch of rubble and the destroyer itself kept sliding at him through the surface. It was chaos. However, having slowed the fall, Starkiller eventually managed to escape the crash site unharmed. Pulling the Star Destroyer down was a pretty great feat, and I wanted to start off with a bang. But the next one is an incredibly powerful ability that he developed himself. It was called Sith Seeker. As Darth Vader himself couldn't channel Force lightning through his cybernetic limbs, Starkiller had to learn this ability all on his own with the help of Sith holocrons. The Sith Seeker was a derivation of Force lightning and most likely was born from Starkiller's own experimentations with the Force, as Vader certainly didn't teach it to him. Now, how exactly did it work? Force lightning itself is an ability where the user channels the dark side inside their body and then releases the energy in the form of lightning from their body. Depending on the strength of the user, it would be stronger or weaker, going from being able to stun opponents all the way to completely obliterating them. His Sith Seeker ability pushed Force lightning to the absolute limit. He would first blast his targets with a powerful Force push, while immediately afterward conjure a massive sphere of Force lightning, allowing the energy to grow increasingly volatile until it slipped beyond his control. This unstable storm of power was then hurled after the target, hence the name Sith Seeker. Upon impact, the lightning sphere detonated in a devastating explosion, obliterating anything caught in its path. The truly overpowered aspect of this ability was that Starkiller could unleash it in a full 360-degree radius, devastating everything around him. Seeing it in action against these poor stormtroopers was certainly one of the coolest, but certainly most overpowered feats we've ever seen. And the only user to ever use this ability was Starkiller himself, and that's why it's well deserving to be on this list. Starkiller has pulled off countless insane feats with the Force, and he's become well known for them. Another impressive feat is his use of Force Crush on an Imperial AT-ST. On a mission in a TIE factory, he encounters an AT-ST. After cutting it several times with his lightsabers, instead of simply letting it fall, he lifts it up with the Force and crushes it into a ball of metal, twisting its armor and frame until it is utterly destroyed. Force Crush is an ability seen on different occasions in several different Star Wars media. Obi-Wan Kenobi used it to crush 2 commando droids once. Luke Skywalker also is seen using it against one of the Dark Troopers in the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. However, every time we see it being used, it's on smaller objects like droids and such. Crushing an entire AT-ST, which mind you is over 9 meters tall and several tons heavy, is no easy feat. And he did that on his first mission in the game as well. So yeah, Starkiller has just always been extremely powerful right from the get-go. And through his missions and several encounters along the way, he only grows more powerful. But compared to the other 2 feats before this, it's kinda nothing. Having been betrayed by Vader repeatedly and wanting to save his rebel friends which were captured by Vader, Galen Marek followed them to the incomplete first Death Star. There, Vader awaited him for their final confrontation. The Master versus the Apprentice. It was going to be an epic fight, but boy does Vader get his ass handed to him. Throughout the entire fight, he's mostly on the defense, and soon after being pushed into another room by Galen, Vader loses. Galen manages to find an opening and blast him with a Force Repulse, knocking Vader down. Then he pulls out several metal pillar tube thingies from the ceiling and crushes Vader with them. Wanting to finish Vader off, Galen pushes the tubes away and jumps at Vader, who only slowly manages to get up. His cape was burned and his cybernetic legs were exposed. Vader tries to fight back, but Galen quickly cuts his legs and then overpowers his saber block and slices Vader's mask off. Then he just ragdolls him around before finally throwing him through the port view window into the Emperor's throne room. Yep, the most legendary Sith Lord stood no chance against Starkiller and was humiliated completely by him. In modern media, Vader's kind of this omnipotent god who shows up and just tears it up, but not with Starkiller. He's the only one to completely destroy him. And want to know the funny part? It happens twice even. But first, we have to talk about the next overpowered feat. Yep, you read that right. He freaking defeats Darth Sidious. Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader would have both died right there on the second Death Star if it wasn't for plot to require them both to survive, as The Force Unleashed takes place before A New Hope. After Vader got beaten by Galen Marek, Galen stood over him, contemplating whether or not to deal the final blow. The Emperor slowly approached him and tried to turn Galen to the dark side by offering him the place as his new apprentice. When Ram Kota intervened, he gets blasted by Force Lightning from Sidious. Hearing Bail Organa telling him to help Kota, Galen decides to let Vader live and attacks the Emperor. In the ensuing fight, he fends off several Imperial Shadow Guards while simultaneously dealing with Sidious, who kept throwing pillars and lightning at him. Finally, he manages to break through Sidious's lightning with the help of a Force push before friggin' ragdolling him around as well, just like Vader. Galen throws him up in the air before he forcefully smashes him into the ground again. With that, he had even beaten Darth Sidious. Yes, the most powerful Sith Lord to have ever lived, the one that finally exterminated the Jedi and sat on the throne of the galaxy, was beaten by Galen Marek. The only reason Sidious doesn't die here is because the plot requires Galen to spare him. Thus, the writers wrote in that Galen wouldn't give in to the dark side and let the 2 most powerful and dangerous individuals in the galaxy just be. Yep, make that make sense. They were both responsible for all the suffering that Galen himself had suffered, yet he chooses to let them both live. As Mace Windu said, Palpatine is too dangerous to be left alive. But yeah, that's just how the plot here goes. Palpatine then gets up and starts blasting more Force Lightning at the rebel leaders. Galen goes in between and absorbs it with 2 Minis. Finally, the blast resulting from their standstill kills Galen Marek, the single most powerful individual in the galaxy. In The Force Unleashed 2, Vader clones the fallen Galen Marek. This clone goes on a rampage after he discovers that Vader had taken Juno hostage and finally confronts Vader on Kamino. In this final duel, he does yet another insane feat. Starkiller had just managed to cut off Vader's sword hand. Vader then force-pushed him away and threw a huge pillar after him. Starkiller, while laying on the ground, manages to catch the pillar, which was supported by Vader, who kept using the Force to try and push the pillar into Starkiller, while simultaneously starting to unearth another pillar and managing to throw that one at Vader. Yep, so he could stand his ground holding one pillar that Vader was pushing against, while at the same time pull out another one and throw it at Vader. I sure think Anakin wished he could have done that during Episode 2 against Dooku. Starkiller then gets up and friggin' uses these metal pillars to channel the lightning strikes from the storm on Kamino from these metal pillars right into himself, kinda supercharging himself with lightning. Then he unleashes the lightning right at Vader while his entire body is brimming with electricity and lightning. That's also where this iconic picture of him is from, where his body is wrapped in lightning. But yeah, that's an incredibly powerful feat, and poor Vader got absolutely slam dunked by this. I think Palpatine's Force Lightning must have been an absolute joke in comparison to this, but somehow Vader survives this but not Palpatine? So yeah, insanely overpowered feat. No one else has done it before and ever since, and for the sake of poor old Vader, it's probably for the better that Starkiller never was really considered canon. Although this was never considered canon, it was still kind of funny to have. Starkiller and a DLC pack would go on to face off against every single main character in the original Star Wars trilogy. In the dark side ending, he takes the place as apprentice at the Emperor's side and hunts down the rebels just like Vader did. Firstly, he shows up against old Ben Kenobi right before they're about to board the Millennium Falcon for the first time on Tatooine. After a short duel, he manages to headbutt Kenobi before throwing him against the walls with the Force. Finally, he pierces his lightsaber through Kenobi's chest. To end him completely and add insult to injury, he tosses the beaten Kenobi into the ignited engine of the Millennium Falcon just for the heck of it, I guess, and vaporizes him. So yeah, that's one more powerful character off the checklist. Who's next? Oh, Boba Fett. Well, Boba kinda just goes out like a silly person in all of his fights, as that's kind of his reputation after the Sarlacc incident. After being outclassed, Boba, as a final measure, fires the rocket on his jetpack at Starkiller. Starkiller easily catches it and just simply throws it back at Boba, vaporizing him as well. 2 down, few more to go. We're way into the Galactic Civil War now, and Starkiller arrives at Echo Base, where he finds none other than Luke Skywalker, an inexperienced Jedi who had destroyed the first Death Star. He easily beats Luke and then gives him a choice. Either let his friends in the Falcon die, or join him as his apprentice. Luke chooses the latter, and henceforth is now Starkiller's apprentice. Next up on the original trilogy cast, Chewbacca and Han Solo. Obviously, they are no match whatsoever, but what makes it a feat is that he actually kills them both. He literally knocks out Chewie with a single punch in hand-to-hand combat after having overpowered him, without a lightsaber, I might add, and then uses Chewie as a shield against the blaster shots that Han shoots at him, killing the Wookiee. He then leaps over and grabs Han with the Force and stabs him through the chest, ending him as well. But wait, there's one more member of the OT cast missing. Ah, Leia. And she's a Jedi? After a short duel, Starkiller also kills her, but with a cheap shot by stabbing her with a second blade and a saber lock. Kinda lame, considering he overpowered the likes of Vader, but whatever. He still kills every single member of the OT, and there's countless potential content material about what-if scenarios of him and Luke ruling the galaxy together. But yeah, that's it for this video about Starkiller's most insane feats and why he's one of the most powerful individuals to ever grace Star Wars, and we all love him for it. Though I do think he shouldn't be canon in this form. Please like and subscribe.